So,
that nice winter fall.
okay,
There
we
we
are
are.
now live. Good
Yay.
morning, good morning, good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. My name is Barbara Lunan Ellison, and I am the founder of the Moving On Movement and just the co host of this Time to Shine happiness show. But I'm flying solo today. My fabulous co host, Barbara Beckley, the other part of the BBs, she had a prior engagement today, but it is so amazing. She can still do the background part of what this show is entailed to, because I'm going to tell you, I believe in being authentic and telling people as it is. I don't know how to do all that stuff. But one of these days I am going to learn. But I am so excited to have our special guest on today, Dawn Phoenix. And it is just such a pleasure to have you here, Dawn. And what I'm going to have you do is just tell us about yourself, how you started on your journey to being a hypnotherapist and getting involved in what you're doing. And, like for myself, I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. And that's why I work with entrepreneurs and business owners to help them to financially provide for their families, because that's what part of happiness is being able to provide for their families. So it is just so cool to be able to interview people that have like minds, that we're all in this, that we're all in this together. We can't do life on our own. We have to get along with the people around us. So what, let's have fun, let's do it, and let's just see where this leads. And we're going to have a conversation about what you do. So welcome, welcome, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. Okay, well, once upon a time, no, I'm kidding.
We like to laugh, so that's perfect.
Good.
Once upon a time, isn't that how every story starts?
Right.
Because
well,
once upon a time,
that's when it starts for everybody.
Yeah.
Now the ending is up to you. So, back, let's say in 2004, it was 2004. Yeah, I was getting my master's of teaching because I knew I have a heart to serve and I love children. So I did that and I taught until I had my son, and in 2007. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought me great joy. And then he went to school and I was wondering, what do I do with myself now?
Right.
And around that time, I had gotten into the practice of meditating. It was tricky though. And I had an experience during a meditation that awakened me to things that aren't usually experienced in our day-to-day world, in our lives, the things that aren't seen. And that shifted my perception of reality. And so I decided, hey, there's things I want to do that are open to me now that I never even knew existed. So I started taking courses in gaining healing modalities. And after I did that for a couple years, I became a healing touch practitioner and a healing touch for animals practitioner, similar to Reiki. Mm-hmm. I decided there are people who aren't necessarily open to the energy medicine work, but I still wanted to serve people and meet them where they're at. Exactly. So that's when I decided, that's part of being of service. You need to understand where people are. Mm-hmm. And, they aren't supposed to come to meet you. You need to meet them. Right. So I decided, all right, let me try to reach the people who, aren't into the energy thing on the mental level. And so that was when I went in 2017, I went to hypnotherapy school. And I started out the first 3 months of it, you become a hypnotherapist, a certified hypnotherapist. And then you can continue your education on the graduate level where you become a clinical hypnotherapist. And the difference is when you're a clinical hypnotherapist, doctors are more willing to refer their patients to you when they don't have answers for certain diagnoses. So that's how I became a hypnotherapist.
Yeah. And a friend of mine is a hypnotherapist, and when I first heard about it, one of my favorite sayings, and I got this from T. Harv Eker, is that you don't know what you don't know until
Mhm.
somebody tells you one little thing, and then all of a sudden you go, gee, maybe I want to find out about that.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with me many, many years ago after I lost my husband, and I had to reinvent myself. I mean, because I thought I
Mhm.
was going to grow, I thought we were going to grow old together and dance at our great grandchildren's weddings. I didn't expect to be a widow at
Mhm.
60.
Mhm.
And, my dad only passed away 2 years ago, and he
Oh,
was 102. So I knew it was like, okay, Barbara, what are you going to do? Well, a friend of mine said, well, you need to meet a friend of mine, and she's a hypnotherapist. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. It didn't register yet. It didn't register the first time she said it. But then I met her, and it was like, oh, well, okay, so maybe I should look into this a little bit. And well, then I did several sessions with her.
mhm.
It was amazing because you know what's in our subconscious, we don't know what's there.
Mm-mm.
Just every once in a while you'll have a quick memory of something, but it's like, gee, and I can remember saying to myself, well, where did that come from? And I think all of us do that. Well, that comes from your subconscious, but it's in there. Everything that we have seen or heard or experienced is in our subconscious.
Exactly.
And some of it, and after the first session she said, well, I said, well, what am I going to notice? She said, you we have just got to get rid of some of the stuff that is just not serving you anymore, and you'll just feel lighter. And I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, I had no idea. I'll just accept that. Okay. Well, after probably the first two sessions, I just noticed that I was feeling emotionally lighter. And I said, well,
Mhm.
what did I get rid of? She said, it's like deleting things out of your email. You don't look at it. You just hit delete all, and your subconscious knows how to do that.
Yeah.
It'll just delete all. And then you'll just notice that there's more space to bring in the positive things that we're looking for.
Right.
And so I am a firm believer in just finding out what's in there. So what do you think is the main thing that you can that people really need to not get ready for, but to just really experience hypnotherapy to the fullest, I guess would be my question.
They just need to be willing
Right.
to do it. There was a quote when we were learning about the history of hypnotherapy in school, and I can't remember which hypnotherapist said it, but he said there are no, I think it was there are no unhypnotizable people, just poorly trained therapists. So when I meet someone, you know, and they're interested in, hypnotherapy, I'll do a consultation with them to see if they're a good candidate for it, because they may not, even on the subconscious level, and they might not be aware of it,
Right.
they may not be willing to open up. And it's not at all about letting go of control. That's a huge misconception that I'm working really hard as a hypnotherapist to free people from. There's no letting go of control. The
Right.
hypnotherapist is not in control of you. I have had people pop up out of their session when they've been in for a half hour and they're like, I gotta pee. Go ahead.
Right.
You are always driving the bus. I am the guide on the side. So I would say definitely the most important thing, if you were to have a hypnotherapy session, would be to be as open as you think you can be, to showing up and doing the work. And then in the consultation, I take you through a number of exercises during our discussion that will show me diagnostically how ready you are or are not.
Right. And that's like with me, I go back to like the first time I heard about it, it was like, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. But it didn't register has something that I would do myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what you're talking about, is that when, like they always say that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was months and months and months later that I had an opportunity to meet her, and then went, oh, okay, well now maybe I'm even slightly willing to maybe make an appointment with her. But then, but we have to also do our due diligence, find out about the person, see,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, because I talked to somebody, my friend who had been to her, and I went, so we talked about it, and she was like, oh, it has just been amazing, and this is what happened, and da 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 da. And so then I was, okay, now I am willing. And that's exactly what it is, when you are willing
There,
to
there,
explore
yes.
the situation.
Yeah, yeah. And there are basically 3 criteria. You need to be willing to do the work.
Right.
So when you find a hypnotherapist, it's important to meet with them and make sure that you like them and that you gain rapport with them. And that's another part of the consultation, is that you as the client get to know and see if you like your hypnotherapist. There were some clients, very few, but there were some where we just were not a good match, and I would
Right.
refer them to other colleagues to see if they were a better match. So you definitely need to like and trust, because even if you're open to the work, if you don't trust your therapist,
Right.
you're probably not going to get many results. So
Yeah.
there's liking and the trusting factor, and
And
definitely the
isn't it
being
about
willing
more
to show up.
like connecting with them?
Mm-hmm,
Just
mm-hmm.
have that connection, that,
Right.
oh wow, this is somebody that I really feel like I can work with. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And you have to be
awesome.
motivated too. You have to come in there with a purpose. You can't just fly in and be like, oh, I want to try this for fun. You can, if you're motivated enough to have the fun, it'll work, but if you show up and you're like, well, I'd like to quit smoking, but I'm not really that motivated, it's not going to work for you, because like everything else in life, what you get out of it is what you put into it. People would ask me, well, what can you cure? And I look at them frankly and I say, nothing. And I wait a minute and I wait for that look on their face. And I said, I don't cure anything you do. I just walk beside you while you do it and give you the tools. You have to decide to put them into use.
Right.
So,
What
and that's
do
a big thing.
what do people come to you for? Like, what do you find the most interesting thing that people come to you for?
Oh, some of the most interesting things have been physical afflictions that and emotional afflictions that are affecting people in this current life, and they're tied to past life issues.
Oh, okay.
There's a way to ask the subconscious mind whether or not whatever's going on is a past life issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a client come to me, and she's fine with me sharing this. I don't say her name or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And she had a skin disorder where she would pick at her skin all the time. And she had been doing it as a child. And for decades, she was in her 50s at this point. She had been to all kinds of different doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists. They tried putting her on all kinds of, what they like, their prescriptions.
Prescriptions, yeah, medication.
Antidepressants. Right, out the wazoo, because, what's your enabler for everybody? And nothing worked. She still kept up with it. And she said, I think it could be a past life issue. So she was already aware enough of it. Right. So I put her into a light trance and asked her subconscious mind if it was related to a past life issue. And it turns out that it was. So I gave her a past life regression. And one of the super coolest things I love about the way that we're trained to do past life regressions is we were able to go back to the incident that occurred in that past life with her higher self. So it wasn't me telling her what to do. She brings along her higher self, which is that aspect of us. It just lives a little bit higher up, in the consciousness, and doesn't have the trappings and emotional ties and traumas that we do. It sees from like a very clear perspective. And they rewrote that incident so that the skin picking issue, never happened. And she ended up living a long, healthy, happy life in a completely different fashion. And so when she brought the wisdom and the gifts back up through what we call the river of time, that's the vehicle that we take people on to get them into that past life, she was not only able to stop the picking, she was able to bring up wisdom and gifts from that life that she was able to explore, having switched what happened. And so it's kind of like rewriting history in a way, because your subconscious mind and your conscious mind don't know the difference between imagination and reality. And that is the key in hypnotherapy.
Right.
You don't even have to believe in past lives. It doesn't matter. But if you even just say, hey, my brain is telling me a bedtime story, this is all just a story. Even if you believe in the incidents that happen in the story, it'll work for you.
Right.
So.
A friend of mine, she does improv work. And it is just fascinating. And one of her things that I just absolutely love, and this is pretty much what you're saying, the same thing, just in a different way, is that she said, every day we get to choose what character we put on. And sometimes we put on a happy character. Sometimes we put on a sad character. Sometimes we put on a mad character. And sometimes we put on the Joker. And that's exactly what happens sometimes. Like what I'm hearing you saying is that when we can go back to a part of our life that made us sad or mad or react in some negative way, and we haven't dealt with it, we bring it forward into our present life. And I look back now on when I did the therapy sessions, and it was like, oh, that's why I do that. And it was just the beginning of awareness. So let me ask you this. I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a second. What do you say to people that say, oh, hypnotherapy? What's hypnotherapy? Isn't that foo-foo, that woo-woo stuff? What do you say to people?
So I say that it is a tool that you can use to unlock the power you have hidden away in your subconscious to make the changes in your life that you want to make. It's not about me. It's about you, and it's about giving you the power that you think you don't have.
Right.
And there's nothing woo-woo about it, because science has been studying it for many decades, and there are tons of scientific articles written on it. It's a type of psychology. Psychotherapy is what it's called. So it's no more woo-woo than going to a psychiatrist would be.
Right. Good answer. I mean, because that's exactly how I feel about it. And so often we poo-poo something without knowing about it, just because we're not aware of it. But then once we get that, and that's why I love doing these shows, and and having the different guests on that do a variety of different things, because not everything resonates with everybody, and not everything resonates the same way with everyone. And yet our brains tend to work the same way in everyone. It's just a matter of I love that, though, of unlocking what's in our brain. Like what makes me slightly different than Barb Beckley, my co-host, or makes it different than you, and yet our brain function is pretty much like, I always think of it as that picture of an iceberg, and where you see the little bit of the iceberg is above the water and the rest of it is underneath the water. Well, that little bit that's above the water, that's our conscious brain. That's what we make instant decisions with, our likes and dislikes and that kind of stuff, on a conscious level. And yet underneath is everything that has gone before. And when you said that our brain doesn't know the difference, it is absolutely the truth. It doesn't know the difference between things that you imagine and things that are real.
Exactly. And the being in the state of hypnosis It's natural for us. And that's something else that I try to educate people on. When we're watching TV or a movie, we enter into a state of light to medium hypnosis. When we're watching TV, we think that we're the character in the show and that things are happening to us. And they have done scientific studies to show people, their breathing increases if they're watching a show that's exciting or there's some danger going on, and they're having a physical reaction to it. And that is also the proof that the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Or like when you're driving in the car, you're in a state of light hypnosis. You're just sort of focused and going down the road. And especially if you have, and I have done this, you have music on and you're listening to a song you really like. And, oh, I missed my exit. You know, you're just, the outside world is background and you're just sort of literally in a trance. So it's natural. And also right before you fall asleep at night, there's that sweet spot where you're just kind of floating in that heavenly space. That also a state of hypnosis. And so that's what I tell people if they ask, what does it feel like? That's what it feels like right before you fall asleep, that sweet spot right there.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
you're just
for us.
Yeah. Like I always think of it as just being calm. Like even when I just sit down and stop.
You never do that.
Just take a minute to stop. And I remember one time it was like I was just, my brain, one of those days where my brain was just going 1,000 miles an hour. And finally it was like, you know, and you're just getting in that panic mode, overwhelmed. And all of a sudden it was like, Barbara, just sit down and stop. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, wait, just wait and be calm. And then listen, and your intuition and that part of you that's in there, your subconscious mind, will give you the answer of what your dilemma is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that I feel that, you know, that going to there's no shame in it, because sometimes we need help to do just stop.
Yeah, I would have people come in for their session and they would be so stressed out about their work day. They're like, I don't even care what we're doing today. You know, they're like, I just want to sit and not think about work for an hour, you know. And, oh, great. Okay, you're motivated. Works for me.
Right.
So, you know, and then when they get up, I love seeing that change. That's one of the most rewarding things, is they're completely relaxed, and it's like they're a different person from when they walked in at the beginning.
Right.
So, and they allowed it. The thing is, when that change occurs, I'm delighted because that was them. They allowed it. It's all them. Everything that happens is all them because they allow. All I do, hypnotherapy is the art of making suggestions. That's it.
Right.
I mean, in its simplest form, I make a suggestion. You decide whether or not you want to take it. Simple as that. So,
right. Okay, so you just brought up a great thing, and we only have a few minutes left, and I want to give people a chance to for you to tell people how to get in touch with you and all of that. So, when you have somebody that is stressed, mm-hmm. and okay, so you're sitting in front of them or on the phone or however you're doing it. What can you share with somebody who is feeling stressed right now? Like for me, I do the stop, wait, and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Something, a tip for our listeners of if somebody is dealing with a stressful situation. Like right now, so many people are stressed, overwhelmed to the max.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming out in so many different physical ways that they're traumatized. And so can you give us a tip or two, and then tell people how they can get in touch with you and all that kind of things, and what you offer? So,
all right. So my number one most important tip is to be aware of your breathing. Most of the time when we're stressed out, we're breathing really fast.
Right.
And that is a product of our overstimulated nervous system. So when we can slow our breathing, just take 3 or 4 deep breaths. And this is probably something that you did when you did the just stop.
Yeah.
If you slow your breathing down and you focus on your breathing, and this is something you can do anywhere. If you're stuck in traffic, if you're in the office, nobody looks at your breathing. They can't tell what you're doing. So you can do this in any situation. You just take 3 or 4 slow, deep, conscious breaths, and your body will respond to that immediately, and it will slow itself down. And then the hormones and the chemicals that are being released as the stress response will stop. And you just keep doing that conscious breathing until you feel like you are in a space where you feel more comfortable and relaxed. So that's my tip, the big one.
And so often, don't you find that people forget that it's that simple?
But we're not
that
taught that.
easy.
Nobody teaches that in kindergarten or college. They don't teach us this.
Right.
So.
Right. I think the only time that I ever learned about breathing was when I was taking vocal music, because you had to learn how to breathe to sing from your diaphragm.
Diaphragmatically. Mm-hmm.
Yep. But people, it's like, what do you mean breathe? Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Just breathe. So anyway, so now how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So I have a website, and it's called dawnslighthouse.com, but I had to tweak the wording a little bit. So it's Dawns and then a hyphen. So DAWNS, a hyphen, and then light and another hyphen, and then house.com. And there I have information on hypnotherapy and the energy medicine techniques that I do and any events that are coming up. And I also have an email address, and my email address is dawnslighthouse2014@gmail.com. And that's all just one word.
Okay. And Barb will be able to put all those info into the show notes, and so we're going to be able to. So, Dawn, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming, and for all of you that are listening, thank you for watching. And leave us share with us some notes about what you've learned. If you want some more information, be sure and get in touch with Dawn. And our Time to Shine Happiness show comes to you every Tuesday at 8:30 Central Time, and as part of the Diamond Factor experience, and which has just been an amazing creation from my co-host, who's usually here, but she had other things. Life happens, as she said about me last time. Oh, life happens. But that's one of the beauties of, don't you just love the internet, that we can still do things and just still be part of each other's lives, and to just to make a difference in the world. So this is Barbara Ellison, and have an awesome week. Dawn, thanks again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And we're gonna have you come on again, because I know you do whole bunches of other things too. So and the thing is, you can't talk about everything every time. I know that. I know. I tend to do that too. It's like, I feel like, because I talk about personality stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, you can't talk about everything. You can't talk about everything, because we can't possibly. So that's why it is so nice to hear from other people of what they're doing, and what differences that we can make to serve the people around us, to help us through life in general, and to just cope with the things that are going on, especially right now in the world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Can I just add one thing I forgot to mention?
You can add, sure.
Okay, with the consultations, they're a half hour and they are complimentary. So I just wanted to toss that out there. I always forget to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, just because, just to make sure that you are, the person that, to have that connection, And that's
Yes.
one of the things that Barb Beckley and I, we're all about connecting with each other. And,
Mhm.
just connect with the people around us, because you know what, that's number one, it makes your life happier. It makes your life simpler.
Yep.
And we are more alike than we are different. And
Yeah.
when you can connect with those people around you, we can all live happier, healthier, just more abundant lives. So
Yes. And the
anyways,
internet's helping us with that because I do all my work on Zoom now. So I can talk to
yes,
anybody in the world. So exactly. So
yeah,
yay,
me
happiness
too.
and reaching out to others.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Thank
just
you.
now I have to say, I mean, Zoom has done so much, to be able to connect with people all over the world, all
Hmm.
over the world. All righty. Well, okay, Barb Beckley, I think she is, I'm hoping, how do we stop?
Stop the
Anyway,
bus.
so I'm thinking she's looking. So but she says we are still live. So let's chat for a second.
I'm
Okay,
good
Barb,
for
where
chatting.
are you? Because it'll come back. Don't you? Modern technology. Because I don't think that we can just leave. I don't. I should have asked you that.
We're trapped in happiness. I'm okay
We're
with that.
trapped in happiness. I know. Okay, I'm going to share one little story. I
Go for
also,
it.
I'm in the hospitality industry, and I've been in the restaurant business for a lot of years. And it's always fun when, there's nothing that I have not seen about of how people do things. Well, I have to admit, yesterday I had a gentleman that he ordered an omelet. I came back to give him coffee, and he had created a whole design on his omelet with ketchup. I laughed so hard. It was like, it just absolutely made my day. It was like, you know what? People are there. People are wonderful.
And then
And
you're like, don't eat it.
when you can just catch somebody doing, like, how often have we done something that other people would look at us and go, huh? What are they doing? And it was just the funniest thing. And he just had made this whole intricate design on his omelet with ketchup.
I envy that. When it comes to art, I don't have a
Yeah.
creative bone in my body. So people
No,
who
me
can
neither.
do that on the fly, I'm like, can I sit and watch that?
Yeah. I can knit and crochet, but to do other stuff, nope, not at
Hmm.
all.
Yep.
Anyways, okay. Well, you know what? I'm not going to keep you any longer. I think we can just both hit leave.
The X button. Okay.
I
Leave
I
studio.
sure.
All
You know
right.
what?
You
Keep
don't have to
talking for a
leave only
second.
because we'll stay here.
Let me see if I can get Barb. I'm just going to ask her a question. How do we stop?
There you go.